Hello everyone! How's everyone doing? Kamusta? Our lecture for this video sa positive psychology, pag-uusapan natin, what does it mean to be happy? So I think napaka-basic na question to given a student who is studying positive psychology. Remember, the field is all about happiness. Ang pinaka-pinag-uusapan sa subject na to is the different ways, different techniques that we can do para mas maging masaya tayo. So the outline for this lecture is very simple. Number one, we'll start with the definition of happiness. Number two, we'll talk about the effects of happiness to a person. And number three, pag-usapan natin what life lessons can we learn given what we learned from numbers 1 and 2 on happiness. So simulan na natin sa number 1, defining happiness. Again, one thing that you need to remember that happiness, the scientific term for this is subjective well-being. Happiness is the popular term. Subjective well-being is the journal article term or more scientific term. One's appraisal of one's own level of happiness according to the definition of APA. Okay, so again, happiness and subjective well-being are pretty much the same. But ano yung essence? No? What's the essence of being happy or the essence of subjective well-being? It is the dominance of your positive emotions. Excuse me. So, how high your positive emotions are refer to your overall level of happiness. Kapag nasasabi mo sa sarili mo that you feel so good, ibig sabihin yan mataas ang well-being mo or mataas ang happiness mo. Like what? What are some examples of positive emotions na kapag mataas, most likely you are happy? The following positive emotions. Mataas yung level of amusement, interest, pride, inspiration, love, so on and so forth. So the more these emotions are high, the greater the chance that we can say that the person is happy. Gusto ko rin yung sinasabi sa Bible, no? The fruits of the Spirit also refer to those different positive emotions like love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, fearfulness. By the way, in the Bible, these are called the fruits of the Spirit. Mas marami kang fruits of the Spirit, we can say that you are a happy person. So what can we learn given what we are discussing about happiness so far? Well, happiness is a state of mind. Ibig sabihin yan, happiness is like a destination that you go into, okay, when the positive emotions are high. That's why ang laki ng implication nito, no? One application of this framework is if you want to be happy, what do? You need to do certain things that will enhance or sa Tagalog mas patataasin yung mga different positive emotions. By doing so, kapag nag-combine yung mga good emotions mo, that lead you to be happy. So wag mong i-treat yung happiness as one single positive emotion, no? Happiness is like the destination when you're successfully able to combine all the effects of these positive emotions. Okay, and again, in connection to this, remember, in positive psychology, ang ginagawa natin is we try or we study different factors that will enhance these positive emotions, which again will help you to become happier. And in positive psychology, meron tayong tatlong categories, no, that we study which we think can increase positive emotions. Yun yung thinking patterns, the way you think. Yun yung mga behaviors, what you do, certain actions, and of course, certain situations in life. Meron mga sitwasyon sa buhay na kapag nandun ka sa sitwasyon na yon, most likely, it will increase positive emotions which again, will lead to happiness. So again, this is the way you need to see happiness, especially if you're a psych major and you are studying positive psychology. Ulitin ko lang because it's very important. The more you increase the degree, the intensity of all these positive emotions, the closer you are to experiencing what we call happiness. And also, let's not forget, no, in psychology, ang happiness, kaya natin sukatin yan because, you know, that's what we do in science. We try to measure different variables. So, happiness is a measurable variable in the field of positive psychology. At paano ba natin sinusukat yung happiness? By using different psychological instruments. Some of the instruments that we use to measure happiness would be the subjective happiness scale. You can just read this on your own via Google Scholar if you want more details about this scale. Meron din tayong rapid assessment of, the short depression happiness scale. Ito pala yun, the short depression happiness scale. High score here means you are happy. Low scores in happiness means you are prone to depression. At least according to this instrument. Pero ang pinakasikat na instrument sa lahat, no, yung talagang maganda yung psychometric properties, reliability, and validity, one of the go-to scales of happiness is the satisfaction with life scale. Developed by Ed Diener, which is, again, another big name in the field of positive psychology along with Martin Seligman. In fact, many researches by Martin Seligman, gumagamit din siya ng satisfaction with life scale. So given all these three I presented, ang pinaka ginagamit talaga in research would be the life or the satisfaction with life scale. So again, if you want more details about this scale, reliability, validity, you can just research that on your own. Okay? So those are the different details that I shared with you tungkol sa definition of happiness. Now let's move on to number 2. Let's talk about the different effects or indicators of happiness. Paano mo malalaman na yung isang tao masaya or ikaw mismo? How would you say that you are a happy person? To answer that question, we have many theories in psychology that help us, okay, to better understand the concept of happiness. Some examples of theories would be self-determination theory, meron tayong PERMA model, meron din tayong broaden and build theory. Now, we don't have enough time to discuss all these three, no? So, kayo na lang bahala magbasa nito on your own. But basically, all these theories, isa sa mga tanong na sinasagot nila is, how would you know if you are a happy person? Ano ba yung mga markers or indicators that indeed a person is in the state of happiness? So, yan yung pag-uusapan natin in this part of the lecture. Actually, kung titingin ka lang sa popular culture, meron ka na mga clues, no, na maririnig or makikita anong itsura ng isang taong masaya. For example, there was this song written by Pharrell Williams, correct me if I'm wrong, sumulat siya ng song na ang title, Happy. And if you read the lyrics of the song, marami kang matututunan about what does it mean to be happy. Like for instance, in his song, ayan, i-zoom natin. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space with the air like I don't care, baby, by the way. So, ibig sabihin nito, one indicator that a person is happy is meron siyang feeling of lightness. Or sa Tagalog, magaan ang pakiramdam mo. And I'm sure for those of you who have felt happiness before, you agree. Isa sa mga situations in our life when we feel light, hindi mabigat yung nararamdaman natin, sobrang gaan would be the times when you are so happy. In fact, Pharrell Williams continues in another part of his song. He said, "Can't nothing bring me down? My level's too high to bring me down." So these words, ang sinasabi, ang isang taong masaya, mataas ang level of motivation or mataas yung level of energy niya. Kaya yung mga taong masaya, most likely very active yan, marami silang gustong gawin sa buhay. And where is that coming from? That energy is coming from the experience of happiness. Okay, so again, so far, no, based on a song from a popular culture song, ito yung dalawang indicators na masaya yung tao, no? Magaan ang pakiramdam, mataas ang level of motivation, and high energy. Of course, let's not forget God's word, the Bible, in teaching us about happiness. In fact, I would say if you want to deepen your understanding on happiness, the Bible is one of the books that you need to read. Kasi maraming talagang mga teachings and passages in the Bible that talks about ano ba ibig sabihin ng experience of happiness. Okay? Like one example will be from the book of Psalms. Ang isang taong masaya, mababa ang stress, meron siyang feeling of peace. Okay? Psalm 4:7-9, "Fill my heart with joy when their grain and new wine abound." And take note of this in verse 8, "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." So these are smaller components of happiness. If you feel peaceful, if you feel na wala ka masyadong stress, nakaka-contribute yan sa experience of happiness. In another example of Psalm, ang isang taong masaya, Because happiness is a very powerful emotion, hindi maiiwasan, mailalabas mo yan. May mga physical outward expressions yan. Like for instance, in Psalms 96, verses 1 to 3, ano yung mga actions na nagagawa ng isang taong masaya, sa sobrang saya niya napapakanta siya. And I'm sure many of you can relate. I'm sure you can recall a time in your life na sa sobrang saya mo, kahit hindi ka kumakanta, kahit hindi naman singer voice yung boses mo, mapapakanta ka talaga. Why? Because you are so happy. I also want to emphasize the word declare. Ang isang taong masaya can't help it but to declare that he or she is happy. Meaning gusto niyang pag-usapan. Ikukwento niya talaga sa kanyang mga friends, sa kanyang mga family that he or she is so happy. That's another outward expression of happiness. In another Psalm, Psalm 100, ang isang taong masaya, another outward expression of this is shouting. And I'm sure, again, many of you can relate in the past, nung na-experience nyo na naging masaya kayo, mataas ang tendency nyong sumigaw, or yung iba sa inyo napasigaw kayo sa sobrang saya. Or maybe you can do this exercise, no? I want you to recall the moment in your life where you felt so happy at sa sobrang saya mo, napasigaw ka. Napalakas yung boses mo. I'm sure you can recall at least one instance where your happiness led to shouting. Another interesting outward expression of happiness based on Psalms 100 would be worship. In fact, worship is very interesting because studies show that worship o yung pagsamba, pwede siyang maging cause ng happiness, pwede rin siyang effect of happiness. So sa sobrang saya mo, napa-worship ka kay Lord, or studies also show, no, in the psychology of religion, when you worship the Lord, one possible outcome is you feel happier. So yan ang maganda sa worship. It can cause happiness. It can also be an outcome or the result of happiness. More about that as we go along, especially when we discuss the topic on spirituality and happiness. But I want to emphasize on another indicator of happiness, which is a person who is happy, meron siyang desire to spread happiness to other people. Specifically, ito yung prediction na ginagawa ng broaden and build theory. If you remember, going back from the slide where pinakita ko yung mga list of theories, isa yung broaden and build theory dyan. So this theory explains ano ang nangyayari sa isang taong napakasaya. Again, ang sinasabi ng broaden and build theory, that person would like to spread his or her happiness, or share, should I say, share his or her happiness to other people. Like what we can read here from the book of Nehemiah. Go and enjoy choice foods and sweet drinks, and send them to those who have nothing prepared. This day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. So a person who is joyful, mataas ang level of happiness, they can't help it. Gusto nilang i-share yung level of happiness with other people. Isa yan sa parang mga psychological reflex of being happy. You can't help it, but you want to share that happiness that you feel with others. Again, you can recall a moment in your life na sobrang saya mo. Let me guess, meron kang desire na gusto mo masaya rin yung mga tao sa paligid mo. Saan galing yon? Because of that experience of happiness. That's what broaden and build theory predicts. One good illustration of this would be one Bible story where Jesus healed the man with leprosy. So itong lalaking to, meron siyang matinding sakit, leprosy nga, and when he heard that Jesus was in town, talagang sigaw siya ng sigaw hanggang sa mapansin siya ni Jesus para lang magmakaawa na pagalingin siya. And to make the long story short, Jesus healed him. But after he was healed by Jesus, merong sinabi si Jesus sa kanya, let me zoom this in, verse 14, then Jesus said, don't tell anyone about what happened, but go and let the priest look at you. So wag mong ipagsabi sa Tagalog. Ipakita mo lang yung sarili mo sa mga priest. Now we don't have enough time to explain why Jesus wanted this. Mahabang explanation yan. But I want you to focus on Jesus' request. Wag mong ipagsabi na gumaling ka na sa matindi mong karamdaman. Question, did it work? Answer is no, because the very next verse, it says, but the news about Jesus spread more and more. Anong ibig sabihin nun? This guy who was healed by Jesus, hindi siya nag-shut up. Talagang after he was healed, nalimutan niya yung request ni Jesus that he went on to tell people he knows about what happened to him. Bakit? Sa sobrang saya niya. Sa sobrang saya niya na yung lifetime disease niya finally natapos na via Jesus, shinare niya yung kanyang happiness from other people which caused the news about Jesus to spread more and more. So again, ang point doon is ang isang taong sobrang saya, ano yung psychological reflex niya? He wants to share the news. He wants to share his or her happiness to other people. Kaya nga in connection to this, no, to the broaden and build theory, one realization I want you to learn is happy people share and they spread happiness. Isang way para masabi mo kung yung tao, masayang tao is meron silang attitude of giving. People who would like to give or who have the habit of giving, most likely masasaya silang tao. And vice versa, kapag ang tao naman madamot, puro sila take ng take, meron silang take perspective, most likely, ang mga taong yan, mababa ang level of happiness. Because again, according to broaden and build theory, you can't help it. When you're happy, you want to expand. You want to spread your happy energy. So with that, no, I want you to ask yourself, are you a happy person? How would you know? You ask yourself, are you more of a giver or a taker? At tandaan, ang isang taong masaya, most likely, mas namimigay kumpara sa mas tumatanggap. So that could be a very good indicator to evaluate yourself kung happy ka ba o hindi. Mas marami ka bang binibigay sa tinatanggap? Kung mas marami kang binibigay, most likely happy ka. Kung mas marami kang tinatanggap, most likely malungkot ka. Okay? So again, that's according to the broaden and build theory. Now, in closing, last one, number 3, let's talk about some of the life lessons we can learn given all the things we now know about happiness. Number 1, sana matutunan ninyo that happiness is within our control. Happiness is not a day that you wait for. Whether you will be happy or not is all up to you. Balik tayo doon sa model natin kanina on happiness. Anong sabi ko kanina? In positive psych, what do we talk about? What thinking patterns? What actions can we do? Which situations will lead us to experience higher positive emotions na makakapagpataas ng happiness? The thing is, kapag nag-focus ka dito sa mga factors na yan, thinking patterns, behavior, situations, what do they have in common? Lahat yan nasa atin. Kontrolado natin. We decide what to think. We decide what to do in a situation. We decide which situations we will go into. Which means what? Na in a way, kontrolado natin whether we will be happy or not. Kaya ang implication nito is hindi mo dapat ginagawang parang event or day yung happiness. It's wrong to ask the question, kailan kaya ako sasaya? Anytime you can be happy if only you choose to be happy. And what does it mean to choose to be happy? You take control of these factors. Take control of your thoughts, take control of your actions, take control of your situations. So as we go along in this subject, pag-uusapan natin yung iba't ibang mga thinking patterns, actions, and situations na makakapagpataas ng positive emotions that will increase your level of happiness. Lesson number 2, sana natutunan nyo that overall, it is good to be happy. So kapag ang desire mo, if one of your desires in life is to be a happier person, it is a good thing. Sa simpleng Tagalog, marami magagandang nangyayari sa isang taong mataas ang level of happiness. And that is based on scientific research. For example, Martin Seligman, again, one of the biggest names in positive psychology, gumawa siya ng isang libro entitled Authentic Happiness, and in this book, he reports different outcomes, different effects kapag ang tao mataas ang happiness. And if you read the list of these effects, halos lahat positive. People who are happy are in better health, wala sila masyadong sakit, malakas ang immune system nila, or kapag nagkasakit man sila, they stay shorter in the hospital because they get healed faster. Because of happiness. Ang mga taong masasaya, okay ang mental health, mababa ang depression, they have better relationships with other people because they value people better when they're happy. And most importantly, maganda rin to, high levels of happiness according to Seligman, nakakataas ng performance sa work. So most likely mabilis kang ma-promote, most likely yung mga projects mo magiging successful, most likely makakuha ka ng mga awards in your line of work when you do your work with high levels of happiness. So halos lahat to, sa tingin ko naman, no, lahat to agree kayo na magaganda yan. So when you make happiness your goal, you are doing yourself a favor. Not only that, no, other than science, I think the reason why happiness is a good thing, it's because the Bible teaches happiness. Isa sa mga commandments, isa sa mga messages of the Bible is human beings are supposed to be happy. Paulit-ulit na tinuturo yung happiness in the different pages of the Bible. Like for instance, if you have time, you can just read the Beatitudes. Nag-lecture si Jesus on happiness, believe it or not. You can find that in Matthew 5:1-12. Kayo na lang bahala magbasa. But in that sermon, no, Jesus sermon about a person's happiness. He teaches different ways how to be happy in the Beatitudes. Again, as we go along this subject, once in a while, babalik-balikin natin yung mga statements si Jesus on the Beatitudes and try to connect each of those statements sa level of happiness ng tao. So the point here is, hindi naman ituturo ni Kristo yung Beatitudes, by the way, which means extreme happiness. Beatitude means extreme happiness. Hindi naman siguro magle-lecture si Jesus about happiness if happiness is not good for us. Since Jesus was promoting happiness, it means spiritually, it is good for us. Other than Matthew, you can also go to Ecclesiastes, si King Solomon. Anong sinabi niya? Nothing is better for a man than to eat and drink and enjoy his work. So okay lang mag-enjoy. In fact, we are expected to enjoy. We are expected to feel happiness in whatever we do. At sa tingin ko, ang pinakamalinaw na evidence that the Bible promotes happiness is based on the statement of the Apostle Paul. Ang sabi niya, rejoice in the Lord always. Gagawin mo dapat habit yung pagiging masaya. Sabi kasi dito always, hindi sinabing rejoice in the world in the Lord every Saturday. Hindi sinabing rejoice in the Lord every Christmas. Happiness must be a lifestyle. Happiness must be a habit. Yan yung sinasabi ng mga passages that I have read to you. Happiness should be one of your life goals because it's good for us as spiritual beings. We are meant to be happy and happiness must be our lifestyle. Huwag natin tratuhin yung happiness as a day that we wait for. Because we can always choose to be happy as long as we are willing to take control of our thinking, our actions, and our situations. Last one, lesson number 3 about happiness. I hope you learned that happiness is a spiritual experience. Let me emphasize on that. It is a spiritual experience. So kapag pinag-aaralan natin yung happiness, automatic yan. Ang issue dito is a spiritual issue. It has something to do with where does it come from? Bakit ba naging spiritual experience ang happiness? Because the source of happiness is spiritual. Please lang, huwag niyong iisipin na ang source ng happiness is physical. There are some people, especially the naturalists, the materialists, will say na ang happiness daw, hormones lang yan. The reason why you're happy is not because of spiritual experiences, but because your brain, your hormones make you happy. I tend to disagree. Hormones don't make you happy. In fact, the hormones are the indicators that your spirit is happy. So these hormones are not causing happiness. These are the effects of happiness. Lumalabas yung mga hormones na yan kapag yung psyche mo, which is non-physical, masaya. Ito yung reaction ng brain rather than ito yung cause of happiness. I hope you see the difference. Kasi dangerous, no? Kapag paniwalaan mo na ang happiness, it's all about the brain. It's all about the hormones. Ang tendency mo kasi, hahanap ka ngayon ng mga physical sources of happiness, which is risky. Ano yung mga physical sources ng happiness na yan? Nandyan ang alcohol, nandyan ang sex, and worse, drugs. That's what illegal drugs do. It will force your brain to release these happy hormones for you to be happy. But in the process of doing that, you are destroying yourself because happiness does not work that way. Physical things are not designed to make you happy. Itong mga hormones na to, lumalabas lang yan as a result of being happy. And the source of your happiness must be something spiritual. Meron kasing spiritual source ang happiness. Okay? Like some passages in the Bible that support this claim, no? King David, what does he say? You have filled my heart with more joy. Question, where did the joy come from? Somebody filled him with joy. Ano yon? Supernatural being yan, who is God himself. Sa New Testament, maganda rin itong statement na to ni Paul, may the God of hope fill you with all what? Joy. So joy here did not come from wine, it did not come from partying, it did not come from any physical object, it came from the supernatural realm, the spiritual realm. Yan yung common sa sinasabi ni David and the Apostle Paul. Alright? So again, paulit-ulit ako dito, no? In connection to this, one application is, we should not look for happiness from physical sources. Because real happiness, genuine happiness, does not come from the physical world. It comes from the psychological, spiritual world. And this is where many people falter. Dito marami nagkakamali. Akala nila ang happiness nanggagaling yan sa mga earthly, material things, so they wrongfully use these material things to make them happier. Sino ang mga kandidato dyan? Andyan na yung money, food, sex, drugs, clothes, at lahat ng physical things sa mundo na akala mo magpapasaya sa'yo. The danger here is itong mga physical things na to, kapag dyan ka nag-rely ng happiness, it will just tear you apart in the long run. Lalong-lalo na marami dito nakaka-addict, no? So sa simula lang successful, but as time goes by, you need to increase the dosage of these physical things until it gets to a point you get tired of having these physical things. Pero ang problema, if you stop getting these physical things, you feel less happier. So ano nangyayari? You become hostage. You become a psychological hostage of these physical things which you think make you happier, which is not good. Okay, so sana wag kayo mag-fall into that trap, no, of depending of your happiness depending on the physical things of this physical world. Because happiness does not work that way. If you want a long-term happiness, sustainable happiness, you need to be getting it from the spiritual realm, the spiritual source. So as we go along this subject, tuturuan ko kayo ng mga ways on how to secure the happiness coming from the spiritual world, hindi sa physical world. Kasi yung ganong happiness, yun talaga yung mas long term, yun yung mas sustainable. I like the words by the theologian J.I. Packer. He said, the way to be truly happy is to be truly human, and the way to be truly human is to be truly godly. Because again, we are spiritual beings. We are at our best. We are at our happiest when we are connected to our Creator. That's the way we are designed. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng godliness dito. No? You are in constant connection with your Creator. Kapag ganun yung status mo, you are always connected with your Creator. What can you expect? Happiness happens. Okay? So again, huwag kayong pupunta sa mga earthly things na yan and expect that you will be happy. You will just disappoint yourself. We are meant to be happy in the spiritual level. Alright? So I hope tong lecture na to nakatulong sa inyo, no, in further understanding what does it mean to be happy. So as we go along in these different lectures on positive psychology, this is the kind of happiness that I'm talking about. Happiness that is spiritual in nature. So if you have any comments or questions, ilagay nyo lang dyan sa comment section. If I have time, sasagutin natin lahat yan. So I hope you learned something. Sir Howard here. Hanggang sa susunod na lecture. God bless.